Welcome to Sovereign Mamas, the podcast sanctuary for visionary women who are building lives, businesses, and legacies in alignment with their feminine power. I'm your host, Julia Jerg, intuitive business coach, mama of two, and systems strategist for solo-led entrepreneurs. Here, we honor both your sacred role as a mama and your wild vision as a changemaker. Expect soul-aligned strategy, raw storytelling, behind the scenes, and powerful conversations that support you in scaling your business without sacrifice. If you're done choosing between success and sovereignty, you're home. Let's begin. Welcome back to the Sovereign Mamas podcast. And today is a really, really special episode, at least for me, because I always love it when I meet, new people from across the globe. But actually, it's so nice to have a friend on today. And these conversations here on this podcast always feel like conversations with friends, but today it's especially true. Laura, my dear, welcome to the show. I'm super excited to have you and can't wait to chat all things Laura-ness.
Thank you, Julia. Excited to be here.
Yes, so amazing. So we may fill the listeners in that our connection has a really long history now, and you helped me with the dates because we connected how many years ago in Thailand on a
5.
Is it only 5? It feels like. Okay, so we're not that's amazing.
But we're pandemic friends. We started when times were hard.
Pandemic friends. Oh, I love that. Yes, exactly. We met during the pandemic, connected, clicked, and then somehow life went on. And how did we reconnect?
Well, we've always stayed connected,
We did.
but at different degrees. And
Yes.
so I think we got more strongly back together in 2024 when I moved back to Asia.
Yes,
But
because
the
you
summer before we came here on holiday, and I believe we saw each other as well.
yes.
Yeah.
And this is the beauty of, aligned connections. And I feel that this fits so perfectly to this show because, you know, there is your people out there on this planet. Some of them you'll never meet in person. Like I literally have connections across the globe that I have never met in person, but that, who feel really close and they know a lot about me and I know a lot about them. And then you get a chance to meet someone in person and you stay connected online and it still feels like, you're a very good friend of mine. And then also we're doing work things together. And so let's dive in. Let's dive in. Um, Maybe share a little bit about your today situation, like who you are, where you're based, and what you're doing, who your children are, and what you're most passionate about these days.
Thanks, Julia. So, my name is Laura. I live currently in Bangkok, and I am supporting parents to be who they want to be in their homes, and with their children, really thriving with increased connection to support more ease and peace and flow in the home, things that we all want and that we can get distracted from and removed from. I have 3 kids myself. They're 5, 7, and 10 growing up. And yeah, I see in the interactions with them and with their friends how important it is to be really present and observant and intentional in the parenting. They've been really my driving force to doing this work to support parents as a parent educator. Um, yeah, I don't know what else.
Amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. And I mean, I always salute parents with an additional child. I feel like 2 children, you have 2 hands, and then there's people who do it with 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. So this is amazing. And then you're empowering others. And I can speak from experience because I went through your parenting course last year, which By the way, and you don't know that yet, Laura, but I just this morning when I walked out of school and I was quickly having a coffee and did my mastermind with my women online, and then I walked out of the cafe and bumped into another mama, and she was saying, Julia, we were talking about other things, and she was suddenly saying, Julia, maybe you can help me with this. And she asked me a question about her son, and you know, she was getting to a point where she got frustrated. And then I remembered something from the course.
Yay.
There's this amazing person in this on this planet, and she has this course, and I went through it, and I had the same thoughts that you have because we have the same children in the same age. And when I heard Laura speak about it, it clicked on me that, or it dawned on me, and it clicked that I was putting something on, like a pressure onto my son who's simply not there yet. You remember, I know
Hmm.
I remember this module when you then go through age appropriate behavior, right? And
Hmm.
how you're expecting something from a child who's simply not capable yet because the brain's not working. And I was so proud. And I said, okay, I'll give you the contact. So maybe she reaches out because yeah. And so this is the
Oh.
work. And I could see the relief and
Mm.
the release also in this, oh, okay. So it was me all the time.
Oh. Hmm.
And I'm sure you have these moments many times. And I know this also from speaking to others in the course that your work is basically this gift of to parents of relaxing into this role more. Maybe you can share a little bit
Hmm.
about your own experience of guiding parents and how you feel about that.
Hmm. Thanks, Julia. Yeah, as you've been in the course before, it's very much a parent-centric program. So I offer the JAI Institute of Transformational Parenting course curriculum, which is a 12-week masterclass. And 12 weeks seems really intense to take on. A lot of people are really hesitant to commit, and I let them know that
Doing
um,
myself.
you can miss a class or two. If you're sick, your child's sick, you have a work trip, I understand. You can catch up, but we need that duration to really support you with sustainable change.
Mhm.
Because we're learning so much, every single week is a different curriculum, and we're learning about child development. We're learning about leveling, just like what you're saying specifically, leveling our expectations to the development of the child is so freeing.
Mhm.
It's so freeing to release that expectation based on evidence-based and science, understanding, oh, my 2-year-old, it's not that he doesn't want to clean his room, he actually can't. He doesn't have the organizational skills, he doesn't have the prefrontal cortex development to be able to do that. So it's not because he's lazy, it's not because he doesn't want to listen to me or that he's a bad child, but it's because he can't. And so you're like what you're saying, it is very freeing to understand these different components, whether it's child development or the neuroscience or emotional attunement. And so each week we do a deep dive to really support you as the parent to be more equipped in your journey, raising these children and also raising yourself. So
Mhm.
much of it is this inner deep work, and we need that time, those 12 weeks together, because as you know, you're reflecting so much on, well, who was I and who am I today and who I want to be. And so every week we deep dive into a different theme, and then we regroup, ask questions, save space, connect, share stories. Maybe you talk about trying to have practiced something that was in that week's curriculum and it went amazing and you're so excited, or it didn't go well and now you're thinking about it and you want to share. So it's that sounding board when we regroup each week. And so it's been so powerful to lead parents through that. I've been leading parents through it for 3 years, moms and dads. I offer twice a year, and now two groups twice a year. And just seeing what comes out in the end it's really my drive and my passion for this work. Um,
Yeah, and you know what also was really mind-blowing to me was that there was dads in this group, and this is what I loved so much. And the vulnerable shares of everyone, including the dads, was that cracked me open because I thought, okay, well, first of all, I guess everyone has this, oof, okay, I'm not alone. Everyone else goes
Mhm.
through this struggle thing,
Mhm.
and at times at least, and then that there's this openness, because it sometimes can feel, um or at least in my world, that moms are doing the things when it comes to raising children and when it comes to managing all things life, and so this was really really refreshing to see that dads are showing up as well for this work.
Absolutely. And it is so important for those who are co-parenting with a male partner,
Hmm.
to onboard the dads. We
Hmm.
know that. I also work in the realm of gender equality, and it's so important to engage fathers and to empower them in their roles and to no longer have them think they're just the breadwinners, they're just coming home, because often that's very disengaging for them. So we need to integrate them really mindfully. And so I just wanted to share, one of the feedbacks from one of the male participants in a recent course, was um, it just, almost knocked me out of my chair. I was just so amazed. He said, through this course, I learned that I don't have to be the alpha male anymore. I don't have to run the show. I don't have to be big and strong and holding things
Hmm.
together. I can be me. I can lean into it. I can listen to my heart. I
Oh.
can play with the children and be soft. So it was just really beautiful. Yeah.
I feel all this pressure. And this is especially
Mm,
as a boy mom so good to know, because we're all put in these paradigms, and then raising, passed on through generations to generations, and it can end with us, right? We can just
mm,
show them a different reality, allow them to feel, be more soft, but also masculine, and also like with
mhm.
this, yeah. So it's so way more than just a parenting coach. It doesn't even describe the actual thing that it's doing. There's so much ripple in this. So yeah, I love
Mhm.
it. I love
I
it.
even get that from my workshops, Julia, because a friend said to me, well, I think I'm a good parent, so that's why I didn't sign up to work with you. I'm already good. I'm good at doing what I do. But then when we started to work together one-on-one coaching, she's like, this is so much more than being a good parent. This is unpacking, like you're saying, the generations of trauma and even of stereotypes and the societal pressures, and really stepping into, with conscious attention and intention, who you want to be as a
Mhm.
person. And
Yeah.
so in a recent in-person workshop, they actually had a couple couples sign up. It was amazing because during the journaling, where we have our individual journaling, but then there's the sharing part, afterwards they said, these are things we've never talked about. We've been together a decade.
Oh wow.
I
Uh,
learned so much, and then they get to go home and try the tools and the strategies and the pragmatic things, from a deeper consciousness together, and then
mhm.
being able to tag team more, understanding what's the approach and why. So
Yeah, so
lots of
good.
layers.
And I think this is just an invitation to everyone to stay open towards learning. Like, this is also what I always find when it comes to business. Like there, you might feel like, oh, I've accomplished my goals. I have a running business. Everything is fine. But you never stop learning. There's always new things. And so when it comes to your parenting also, and being a human being in general. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you have your stories and
Mhm.
your beliefs and your routines, and you might be feeling all smooth and thriving, but staying open. So this is today's invitation. By listening to Laura's story and what she's doing, is simply, there's always something, a nugget to take away, and it might even, bring back a new feeling, a new angle, and the spark in this case, the way you show up for your children, for yourself first, and then for your children. And this is
Mhm.
why I'm also so excited about our collaboration when it comes to the Sovereign Mamas Village Retreat, because Laura is also coming to Bali in July.
Yay.
And we're talking about collaborating further ahead, like further along, on future retreats, because it makes so much sense. I mean, this whole concept and the foundation of sovereign mamas, and now also with this format of in-person work and embodiment work on site, is only so much complete when we're bringing it into the concept of motherhood. And so it made so much sense when we talked, because there is always this piece, and that's why I'm always a big fan of looking at everything holistically, right? You can't implement a strategy into your business if the strategy is in misalignment with your beliefs, patterns, the upbringing, your money mindset, for example, or people pleasing, and you can't fully show up as a parent if there is also like if you haven't done the inner work. And so this we're combining everything now and supporting the participants in the most holistic way, right? From all angles. We're just like giving all our wisdom and support. And so, yeah, what maybe in your own words, what are you bringing to the retreat in, and what's most exciting about this concept for you?
Thanks, Julia. Yes, really excited for the retreat. And I also love the part that we can bring our children. So I'm bringing my two older ones who will be able to really appreciate and thrive in the nature camp. And I love this growing and learning together and being able to circle back at the end of the day and be together and joint activities. Um, and as we talked, like you said, it's really impossible to show up fully for work when things are going on in the background. And we know that happens. This is life. And we'll have so many moving parts and it's, constantly busy and changing. It's hard to be in control of everything. Um, but I've witnessed in my own career in international development, people who are maybe not enough present on the home front, and it comes crawling back, always comes crawling back. And I work with so many working moms and dads, but mainly moms for now. And I know that as things get harder on the home front, you sometimes tend to just want to, stay a little bit longer to make sure you get your work done or do that work trip because it's so hard. But it doesn't work to hide from it or to run from it or to shut it down. That's actually going against nature. It's going against nature, and it
Mm,
won't support you to get further up in the ladder. And if you do, then you're going to turn around and see what happened in your
mm,
absence. So much of this work is so deep. It pulls on your heartstrings, and it really makes you take a deeper look. And sometimes we've been running past the mirror for a long time, so it's hard. It's really hard. And everyone's in it together in this work. And so with the retreat, the women have showed up there. They want to grow and amplify their businesses. They want to recenter with love and a deeper understanding and connection and community. And so the motherhood work that we're going to be working on during the parenting workshops is really going to focus on what I think are some of the core skills to support really busy moms. And so we're looking at understanding emotions as messengers. We're looking at emotional attunement and recentering so that we can self-regulate in order to co-regulate. And so within that, we're also going to be really looking at the nervous system science of the body, understanding the symptoms when they come to our body, reconnecting with those signs as it goes up to our brain, to really bring in our prefrontal cortex and act from a space of logic and rational thinking versus emotional reactive brain. And so these are the main areas that we're going to go into. And it's so important because so many of the moms I work with, you come home from a crazy busy day, it's exhausting, and things are flying at you, maybe physically if not emotionally, and then you're dealing with it, and maybe you didn't show up with your cup filled because you've been pouring it all day, and maybe you showed up tired and you have night calls starting and you need to hurry through dinner and bedtime, and so you have this level of stress that you haven't managed to dissipate before walking through the door. Something happens, you react versus respond. And then that night, after your night calls, you're laying in bed and you're thinking, oh my God, why did I say that? Why did I do that? And the grief and the guilt is keeping you up. And what do you need more than anything after that long day is sleep, rest, restoration. And so we want to just nip that in the butt and really just understand these are the emotions, this is the nervous system. How can we support controlling our nervous system to receive our emotions with love and to manage them so that we can show up the way that we want to, that we feel good about, and show up the way that we always dreamt we would for our children.
So cool. So good. And yeah, it's really, I want to say this loud and clear. It's really for the ones, for the women who are ready. Because as you may now notice from what we just both shared, it's deep, it's work, but it's going to be supported. You're going to be held, but you have to be open. So yes, we're inviting into a really beautiful holiday location. Bali is dreamy and you might think, oh, I'm going on a holiday, but it's not for those who are seeking vacation because this is a retreat that leaves you later on with, so much more knowledge about yourself. You might feel you cracked open in certain areas for sure, and you have a better understanding of how to navigate certain situations in life with your business and in your parenting journey from this week alone, right? So it's not for everyone. Not everyone is going to feel that pull, but those who are ready, for them, it's going to be the most transformative and amazing week. And I'm really, really excited for it.
Absolutely, Julia. And just to add, I love the way that you designed the retreat to have some white space in each days and to have one-on-one options with different facilitators. So if something does really open something and they need some support, some deepening, some closure, we're all there and we're present and available. So I think that's really important.
Yes, yes. And obviously, we will link in the show notes not only to Laura's beautiful work, but also if you end up listening and catch this podcast episode in time to still book your flights, then you're invited to come to the July edition in 2026. But let's go back maybe to the moment because I know your story, but the listeners might wonder, how did you end up, choosing this work? You said it before, you um yeah, briefly spoke
Mhm.
about it, but where was there a moment when you realized something has to shift for yourself and maybe even go a bit further back and who was Laura before she became a mother?
Ooh, that's far.
That's
Um,
you're not bad.
Julia, yes. I mean, I think before, it's like so many moms, before being a mother, I felt very zen and calm. You could do whatever you want, when you want. I met my partner very young. We traveled the world backpacking. We went on our civil union honeymoon to Bali, actually, and I haven't been back since.
Oh my
So,
gosh, I didn't know that. Really?
yes. And so, yeah, life was good and carefree and really light. It was
Mm,
light, and I felt zen all the time. And not like a quiet zen, people know I'm very active and I'm out and about, but feeling good,
mm,
and peaceful. And so when the children come along, so what I see with clients, and of course what I saw in myself is just, you lose that ability to just have the zen when you want, to just have the calm. You lose control, right? I never thought I cared much about control, but you realize actually your attachment to control when the children come in and things get turned upside down, etc. Thankfully, I have an incredibly supportive mom who was with me for my first two births, always there, caring, telling me what to do. She opened a Montessori daycare when she had three kids under three, because she needed that community and that vibe, and it became her work. So I was lucky to have that figure guiding me really deeply and strongly and in the hardest of moments. So bringing me forward to the birth of my third child, we'd been living In Africa, we were medevaced back to Bangkok, where we had medical visas lined up to have the birth, and there's travel restrictions. So I didn't have my mom with me that time. And, that was a bit harder, especially with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old and in the pandemic. And so this is really when things came together for me to go on this line of work. I have a master's in conflict resolution. I always, studied and thought I would be working on peace negotiations at international levels. But I'm also a very intuitive person. I'm a Cancer sign. I'm very attuned to people, social, and I really love the human connection. So I oscillate between this, global views to the in-person one-on-one. That's just me. And I realized that parenting is the hardest thing in the world. And I say that with love and with compassion. But as we know, from when the baby's kicking around, I have very active babies in my belly kicking around. You already feel like, what's this? You're not in
Mm,
control. And mine would always get very active in big meetings. So I'd be giggling to myself and just trying to hold it together. And to until for forever. These
mm,
are other human beings that are brought into our life, and we can't control them. We can be who we want to be around them and hope that we influence them. And we can be the model and the guide and the facilitator for these beings. But, when I had 3 children under 5 during the pandemic, working nights for Africa, I'm talking nights like facilitating webinars in another language till 1 in the morning. It was really hard.
oh
And the
my God.
hugest blessing is that my dad did come through. He made it through the quarantine and he came. So he was really helping. He'd be rocking the baby and cooking at the same time while I was on calls. But I had this moment where I was like, okay, it shouldn't be this hard. This isn't
Mm,
normal. And I don't feel good. My daughter was 4.5 going on 5. That's a moment where lots of emotions and their development. And it was so hard to be present with all these other layers. And I was like, but this isn't me. And so I started to look up some workshops. I'd always heard, oh, there's some interesting parenting workshops out there in this world. Where are they? And then I came across the Giant Institute for Transformational Parenting, and I was like, oh, this only trains people to be coaches. So I looked into it because I thought the philosophy looked really beautiful, aligned, did a lot of background research because it's quite a long commitment certification program, and it clicked. And I said, this is it. I'm gonna do this. And
on
it's
top of everything.
well, actually, we returned to Africa and I did resign from that position, which wasn't supporting me.
Hmm.
And I did this, but I started another job. So it was on top of everything. You know me, it's always on top of everything. Calls were at night because of the global time zones. And it was an incredible program. It changed our life.
Mhm.
So, and
What was the first thing that you noticed? What was the first change or shift?
it was that stepping out of reacting and being able to respond,
Hmm.
and that releasing of the expectations,
Hmm.
that giving yourself permission to just lean into the moment.
Hmm.
Um, it was focusing on presence, using play as a toy, as a tool, and
Hmm.
toys as a tool. Just kind of letting out the expectations, the this person says to do this person says to do this. And I'm not very much on social media, as you know, so I don't have those levels that people have today.
Hmm.
Releasing that, letting go, and just really recentering on who I wanted to be, and starting with filling my own cup. So when my mom was away that time, I would probably make comments on the phone and she'd say, no, Laura, you first, so I would have that voice in my head, but when they're far away, it's easy to not listen.
Yeah.
So I kind of needed that internal shift, you
Hmm.
know, that, like you said, that readiness. And then I found the program that worked for me. And then it was so transformational for us. And in that program, we learn to teach the 12-week course to others. And so the Giant Institute themselves, it's about this ripple effect. and
Hmm.
similar ideas as me that this is the way really to creating peace is to create peace in the home first,
Hmm.
to create empowered children that feel like they're safe, seen, and heard, and parents who can lean into connection instead of power struggles.
Because what would you say, what do children need most from adults or from their, maybe not only parents, because you also work in the educational systems and help in schools and teachers with workshops. And so what's if you could pick one thing, what's the most important thing? That's a hard question.
I think it's the emotional attunement. You know, like you said, I also work with teaching, training teachers, and whether it's in the classroom or at home, it's really recognizing, and I'm going to quote Mona Delahook on every behavior is a communication of an unmet need.
Hmm.
And so children aren't acting out because they're bad. Children aren't acting out because they want to make you lose the rental deposit. You know, they're not acting out because of anything. They're acting out because they have an underlying need. So when they're tiny, it's a little bit easier. You know, the baby cries, like, okay, are they hungry? Do they need a diaper change? Do they need a cuddle? I'm also trained as a postnatal doula, and that last part was something that I wasn't trained when I became a new mom, that sometimes a baby cries for a cuddle. So the emotional attunement, that really deep need and desire begins from day one
Hmm.
of our children's lives. And so recognizing that is so important, just really seeing them. And like I mentioned before, it's so hard today. And if you speak to anyone from the baby boomer generation, they'll say, you know, with a lot of compassion, you guys have it harder than we've ever had, you know, with all these layers of distraction,
Hmm.
the phones, the screens. But we need to really center in on the active listening and see our children, you know, face to face, look at them, hear them, and then we can decipher kind of what's their need underlying this communication or behavior.
And and this is why I also love that we're combining our work because I think we're part of why a lot of parents are struggling is because they're so disconnected from themselves, and this should be the most intuitive thing in the world, right? It's just like giving birth. It's the most natural process, and yet society has it that it needs to be in a sterilized hospital and it has to be like this certain way and out of control of your control. And then again, like when it comes to raising your children, you're like so looking outside because you're not connected to your intuition. And yeah, it's what I strongly believe in, that when you are reconnecting with yourself and do the inner work and trust your inner intuition more and really practice that muscle of stepping into your own power, then in your parenting way or in your as a parent and in your business, everything else changes for the better, right? So this is, yeah,
Hmm.
so cool.
Absolutely. That's actually something that I wanted to talk about today, Julie, when I was thinking about it. It was really exactly that. You
Hmm.
know, what is probably one of the biggest philosophies is that I teach in this program or in the parenting work that I lead is to follow your intuition. A lot of people don't know, but in the late 1990s, they found neurons in the heart. So it's quite a recent discovery, 40,000 neurons in the heart. And a new department was created, neurocardiology. So taking neuro from what used to be the brain science and cardiology from the heart work. And so when people say, you know, you say, oh, how did you just walk out of that board meeting and leave that job? Or how did you get married so quickly? Or I followed my heart. And
Mhm.
that's not like woo woo. That's like a literal decision based on the heart brain. And so much of so many things in society disconnect us from our heart and from following emotions as messengers, as communicators, and from following our heart brain, that we're sometimes, like I said earlier, leading without having looked in the mirror recently or without
Mhm.
reconnecting with ourselves. That's so important.
Ah, I love heart brain. I've never heard that before. It's so amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
exactly. And
Yeah.
so if you're like me and you really like, the evidence and the scientific research, it really helps to solidify the grounds for instance, like
Yeah.
following your heart. It's an actual
Oh,
logical decision.
amazing. Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, I just hope that everyone who's listening today is inspired to, look into the areas of their life again with a fresh look, with an open mind, and seeing where is it not flowing, where am I feeling stressed, where am I feeling depleted, and then bringing it back to yourself and looking, well, maybe it has to start with me. How can I change? How can I shift? How can I, set more boundaries? Because it's
Mhm.
especially as moms, like this has been the biggest task for me. Like I'm speaking now for myself on my motherhood journey, like setting boundaries and being really disciplined. And I had this today on the mastermind call with my women. Discipline sounds so masculine, sounds so it's almost like something you have to do. But when you look at it from the angle of, or call it devotion, you know, then suddenly discipline becomes something that is because you're devoted to your becoming, you're devoted to your well-being, to feeling good. And then it just makes sense to be disciplined. And so, yeah, in the context of parenting, look at it new from this angle and from what Laura shared today with us. There's tools, right? There is a reason for why certain things are in all these ages, or age groups and seasons of your child, and then also in your parenting journey. And maybe, yeah, maybe you can still learn something today. You know, as a seasoned parent. My dear, is there anything else like that we haven't? I mean, we could obviously talk for hours, but is there one big takeaway that you wish the listeners cannot miss?
Well, I think, thanks, Julia. And yes, we could talk for hours. So we did talk about the importance of the intuition, but I just want to say, I was in my spinning class this morning, as you know,
Mhm.
and the coach, she said, okay, we were between songs. She said, get your water, get your towel, get whatever you need that's going to support you to perform your best on this next song. And I thought, well, this is it. This I wanted to bring to this call with you because that's the reality. We can't pour from an empty cup. And
Mhm.
so, like you were saying, to do this needs assessment, self check-in, maybe some journaling will support you. It's so important to see what needs are being met and what aren't, and how you can support self-care.
Mhm.
And I don't, for those who are listening, I really don't want you to go off and think, oh, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing this. Start with yourself. Think about, how am I caring for myself? Because we really need to model that self-care so that our child also sees and respects self-care. So it's really part of the process. And just to remember that you can't pour from an empty cup is also something I'd love to leave with the moms today, for them
Hmm.
just to remember and prioritize the self-care so that they can show up how they want to be and with this full cup so that they can give and provide to their child or children.
Yes. Yes. Amen. Right? Self-care isn't selfish, and this is just a good reminder we can't hear enough. So go out, ladies, after listening to this podcast, go out and do something nice for yourself. It doesn't always have to be the big thing like the massage or whatever feels like out of reach right now. Even just sitting with a cup of tea somewhere nice for 10 minutes and just like do nothing. Put up your feet, read a book, call a friend. Yeah, stay in connection. I think that's also a big one for me, at least. Like when I'm in connection and know I have my tribe, my sister, my community, then nothing can be. too bad. There's always a solution. Okay, with this, I would love to just again thank you, Laura, for coming on, sharing your wisdom and your energy with us. It's always a pleasure, of course. And yeah, for anyone listening today and who would like to know more, they can reach you best on your website, I believe. Yes, so extraroots.com. We will link in the show notes as well. And if you have any questions, reach out, leave a comment, tag us on social media so that we know you watch this, you listen to it, and we can't wait to have you back when it's time for another episode on this podcast. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you.